Hey there YouTube, Wrestling Optimus here, back with another action figure review. It's Wednesday night, and you know what that means, time for AEW Dynamite on TNT. More importantly, it's Grand Slam, live from Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York, WWE's spiritual backyard. With 20,000 plus screaming fans in attendance, this was by far the biggest episode of TV in AEW's relatively short history, and I'm pumped to get into it. But first, if you're new here, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more pro wrestling and action figure content. Now, we're headed into my custom arena, so for a recap and review, let's take it over to the action figures. Incredibly, Dynamite opens with Bryan Danielson vs Kenny Omega in a non-title dream match. These men didn't even need to fight because they received arguably the loudest sustained crowd pop for a stare-down since The Rock vs Hogan in 2002. But once they finally did lock up, it was an absolute clinic. Now, I have a confession to make. The actual in-ring action is my least favorite part of pro wrestling. Most of the time, I space out for large portions of matches. But not here. I was enraptured from start to finish, and it was so easy to, with the combination of an insanely hot crowd and perfect selling by two of the best pro wrestlers in the world. Go watch this match and experience it for yourself. But in the end, and after multiple commercial breaks, just as the American Dragon is about to sink in a label lock and win, the referee calls for the bell as time expires and the match is declared a draw. First of all, in no way, shape, or form did that feel like 30 minutes. I was so mesmerized by the spectacle of it all that time absolutely flew by. Now granted, my initial reaction to the ending was probably the same as other fans. This is bullshit. But once I thought about it, this was brilliant. In fact, the entire concept of time limits adds realism to the AEW presentation. Even as a kid, I would often wonder how bookers knew the show would fit into 2 hours of TV. Well, if the matches have to end by a certain time, then it's easier to understand how wrestling doesn't run over like real sports. Plus, a draw protects both men and leaves the audience wanting more and willing to drop some money for the inevitable title match on pay-per-view. Not ones to miss the chance to ruin a good thing, out come the Young Bucks and Adam Cole for a post-match beatdown. Predictably, Christian Cage and Jurassic Express make the save. CM Punk comes to the ring and starts his promo by putting over the previous match. He says he should be pissed about getting attacked by Team Taz last week, but it's hard not to crack a smile in front of these fans. Still, Hobbs screwed up by not finishing him off when he had the chance. Team Taz slept on Punk, and rather than wake them up, it's his job to tuck them in. So on Rampage this Friday, he's putting Powerhouse Hobbs to sleep. For weeks now, MJF has been harassing the Varsity Blondes, so Brian Pillman Jr. is out for a little revenge. MJF works the crowd as much as his opponent before turning his attention to Julia Hart at ringside. Brian makes him pay with a diving dropkick, but MJF reverses an Air Pillman into a Salt of the Earth armbar and picks up the submission victory. Chris Jericho and Jake Hager respond to Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. Hager says the Men of the Year are more like Boys of the Week, before Jericho accepts their challenge for a match at Rampage and tells Dan Lambert to bring along his MMA buddies. This is where the capacity crowd got a little weird, as Cody Rhodes takes on Malachi Black in a rematch predating the arrival of Cody's new baby. Speaking of which, Brandy makes her return, but even that's not enough to get the fans on their side. Throughout the match, the crowd boos Cody the babyface while cheering Black the heel, with one exception. When Malachi does his trademark backflip into a seated position, Brandy climbs in the ring and sits down across from him. The camera zooms in on her face just in time to catch her mouth "fuck you" before giving him the double deuce.
The double deuce.
Despite being hit with a Cody cutter and a crossroads, Black won't stay down. When Cody gets frustrated and shoves the referee, Malachi uses the opportunity to spit black mist in Cody's eyes and roll him up for the win. The Spanish God Sammy Guevara challenges God's favorite champion Miro for the TNT title next week on Dynamite. And if Sammy wins, he promises to buy Fuego del Sol a new car. Next, FTR, wearing NWO-inspired gear, take on Darby Allin and Sting. The story here is that the Icons still got it in spades. He abandons the protection of the corner almost immediately and proceeds to give as good as he gets while playing all the hits. He nails multiple Stinger splashes and hits a Scorpion Death Drop while Dax Harwood sets up a chair in the corner. However, that backfires and he winds up going through it. As Darby hits Cash Wheeler with a coffin drop on the apron, Sting sinks in the Scorpion Deathlock on Harwood, who's forced to tap out. Finally, in your main event, Ruby Soho challenges Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, for the AEW Women's World Championship. It's a really good match with all the expected interference from Baker's henchmen. Ruby hits a no future kick on the dentist, but Rebel distracts the ref, and Jamie Hayter stuns Ruby, allowing Britt to sink in the lockjaw and retain. If you're a fan of work rate and in-ring action, this was probably an A+ episode. My only criticism from that perspective is Omega and Danielson should have gone on last, because it kind of killed the crowd. However, for those like me who prefer character and storyline development, this left a lot to be desired, and didn't exactly live up to all the hype. To be fair, it was marketed and booked more like a pay-per-view than an episode of TV, so I probably should have expected that. But I'd be lying if I said this didn't leave me slightly deflated and wanting a little bit more. Still, the wrestling was so good, I'd have to give it high marks overall. And now, I'm even more pumped for Rampage on Friday night. Alright, that'll do it for AEW Dynamite Grand Slam. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. I'll be back hopefully tomorrow with an action figure unboxing, and then again this weekend with my predictions for WWE Extreme Rules. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to do all that normal YouTube stuff. Smash the like button, share with any wrestling or action figure fans you may know, subscribe to the channel, and spread the word. You can also talk to me over on Twitter at WrestlingOptimus, or see all my best figure photography over on Instagram at WrestlingOptimus. If you haven't seen my review of last week's Dynamite, you can check that out right here. But until next time, I've been Wrestling Optimus, and I'll catch you later.